guys doing? A little different today. We started a little different. Let me switch my screen so I can talk to you guys. Cool. Thank you for stopping by Planet1wp. My name is Josie Carr and welcome to my planet. Today we'll be talking about how to use any controller you have with Traktor Pro. As you can see, I started the intro today a little different. I played a little bit with my mapping that I had for Traktor Pro. And this is known as the Innovation Launch Control. You can use any controller. It doesn't have to be this one in particular. You can use like an F1 or anything like that, the Innovation Circuit, anything that has knobs and has MIDI capabilities. Okay, you can use your push keyboard that might have knobs as well. So today that's what we'll be talking about. How the hell can we use any MIDI controller to work with Traktor Pro to DJ, as opposed to just the regular stuff. And I'll be trying to keep my eye, because I'm not very good at this. I'm just one person trying to teach techniques and also how to work the chats. I'm not too good with the chats yet, but I'm getting better. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. Let's get right to it. Let's look at this Traktor Pro and let's make it happen. I'm going to switch here. Cool, so here we have Traktor Pro. I am using two of my songs. One of them is called Fade Away and the other one is called ReGroove, which you guys can grab on my website as well. Cool, so and as you guys can see, I have this already mapped. Innovation Launch Control, already mapped. And you guys can see I'm going to move one of these knobs here and you guys can see that the filter is moving. Okay, so I've mapped that into the filter. Also, this is the volume of the track. You guys can see it coming up and down. And if I hit this one here to play hot cue number 1. And why am I showing you guys that direction when I could just put it on here and you guys can actually see it? Okay, so number 1 is mapped to hot cue number 1, hot cue number 2, and this is, the cue and play and stop. And then this is mapped to the reverb on top. Cool, so let's find out how the hell we did that. And this is 4 is dedicated to deck A and the other 4 dedicated to deck B. Okay, and I'll turn off the filter so you guys can see. I have some reverb. Let me turn that off and to make sure the volume is all the way up. Cool, and I have these guys, by the way, set up to sync. So if I hit that, you can see that the sync button on deck A is no longer active. And this one is deck B, no longer active. And the ones above here, I set it up for headphones, so I can pre-monitor what I'm going to drop first. All up to you. If you have a controller that has a lot of knobs, then you decide what you want and how you want to work. But just know that you can map anything that has buttons, faders, or anything that is MIDI capable. Cool, so let's do it. Let's go into preferences. I can go up here and go track the preferences. I use the shortcut command, comma. Okay. The first thing we want to make sure is that it is connected via USB. Okay, I have it connected via USB, and that is how it's sending the MIDI information to Traktor Pro. I already have one set up here. As you guys can see, I'm going to turn that off so it gets out of our way and we can start fresh. Okay, the first thing that we need to do after we make sure that the cable is connected to the computer, the USB cable, we want to create a new generic MIDI device, because obviously it's MIDI. So we're going to go here and we're going to generic MIDI. Okay. So the first thing I did was I kind of looked at this and I said, what would be the easiest way for me to take my computer and just this little controller and go and DJ, because I don't have these other controllers, right? Or maybe I don't want to carry those controllers. I just want to carry this one. So I looked at this. I said, okay, it has 4 knobs. It has 4 buttons and 16 knobs and a few extra buttons here. Oh, let's see what I would particularly like to use. Keep in mind, you can set it up to anything. But for me, I just need play, stop, hot cue 1, hot cue 2, some levels, and a filter and a little reverb, okay? So let's do it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my play and stop button for deck A. Okay, I'm going to go here to the bottom after I've added the generic MIDI. I'm going to first tell it I'm going to be using the launch control. Okay, so I have to do that. Generic MIDI, the launch control. Tell it ins and out ports, and now I'm going to add commands, what I want these buttons to do. So I'm going to go to add in right here. Okay, and under add in, I'm going to go to the deck common, right? Because this is a deck, right? And I want to play and stop the deck. So I'm going to look for play, and there's a lot of them. So sometimes it gets confusing finding them. So take your time. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Play and pause, deck common. I'm going to hit that. And now I need to tell it that I'm going to assign button number 4 for that. That's what I like. I want to make 1 through 4 for deck A, 5 through 8 for deck B. I'm going to select number 4, and before I can do anything, I have to hit the learn button. Now I can hit the button here, and as you guys can see, it took that note. Now I'm going to turn off learn because I don't want to hit something else and mess it up, right? Turn that off. And then here it's asking me what type of controller is it. It's a button. Okay, do I need it to hold? In other words, I have to keep my finger on it for it to continue to play. I don't want to do that. I want to toggle it. So when I hit it one time, it's going to turn it on. When I hit it again, it's going to turn it off. Now it's asking me, what do you want to assign that to, that command? Well, I want to assign it to deck A. So on the assignment, I go to deck A, and let's find out if it's working. Okay, I'm going to slide it over just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to hit play, number 4. And since it's a toggle, it will turn off. Another thing that I probably want to do, you see, it doesn't highlight. The button is not lit up. I want it to light up. Okay, so I'm also going to assign it an out. Okay, and again, that common, look, it always keeps the one that you do last on top, which is pretty convenient. So I'm going to just go to the one on top. You remember the last one I did. Okay, I'm going to hit learn, and you can see it's an LED. All it's going to say, the out is turn the light on. So I know that it's playing deck A. So I'm going to just hit the number 4 again. Okay, and it's already assigned to deck A, so I'm good. I'm going to turn that off so I won't mess it up. And watch what happens with the light on it. It lights up, letting me know that it's playing. That's great. So I've done the play button for deck A. Now I'm going to do it for B, so it'll be easier for us as we're going, okay? And the fastest way to do that, instead of going into the menu, adding in and all of that stuff, is a shortcut. We go to play and pause, and we can duplicate that. Okay, so we're going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to hit learn. And for deck B, I'm going to use the 8th one. I'm going to make sure again that I go to the bottom, select it to B. So I saved the work. Now if I hit play, whoops, sorry, turn off learn, right? Remember? You guys can see. And I'm also going to need that light to turn on to let me know that it's playing. So I'm also going to duplicate the out. Hit duplicate on that. Okay. I'm going to learn it as well. And make sure that it's on deck B. Okay. So now I have two. Deck A, lights up. Deck B and deck A. And if, cool. So now I've assigned play for both of the decks. Let's see what else we can do, right? The next thing I'm probably going to want to do, and I'm going to have to look at my notes because there's a lot of things you can actually do. The next thing we're going to do is the volume, right? So we want to be able to, you know, bring in the new deck by bringing the volume up, just like regular DJing, right? So I'm going to assign this first knob right here to be the volume for deck A. And number 5, I'll assign to deck B, right? So I'm going to add in here, and that's a mixer. We're working as a mixer. So I'm going to go to mixer, and I'm going to look for volume adjust. I'm going to select volume adjust. I'm going to hit learn, and I'm going to turn the knob, and you guys can see that the knob was taken, and now I'm going to assign it to the deck I want to control, and that is deck A. Down here is asking me, is it a fader, is it a knob? Well, it's a knob. And then it's asking me direct. That means that as soon as I touch it, right, and let me slide this over, it's going to move it. You see that? Okay, I personally like relative. You can get more in detail, okay? I like relative because it doesn't jump so fast, you know? It lets you take your time, and then you can adjust how fast you want it to react, you know, when you touch it, okay? So for me, I'm going to select relative instead of direct. So direct is exactly where it is. As soon as you touch it, it's just going to jump on you. So that's why I prefer relative. Cool. So for that, we don't need a light to light up, right? So we're pretty cool. So let's do it for deck B as well. Again, shortcut, duplicate it. Okay. Learn. And I'm going to assign knob number 5 for it. As soon as I turn it on, I'm going to turn it off. Okay. And then after that, I am going to make sure that it is assigned to deck B. Okay. So now if I turn it, and I'm going to move this guy over so you guys can see it, you guys can see that now I have two faders. One for deck A, volume, and the second one for deck B. So cool, now I have my play button, I have my volume button. Now what I'm gonna probably need next is gonna be my headphones. I need to be able to pre-hear the new track that I'm gonna mix in. So I'm gonna set some headphones, which means every time I hit this, I can hear deck A, or this one, hit deck B. So let's do deck A first. I'm gonna add it in, and I'm gonna go to the deck, okay? And I'm going, you see that's where it gets confusing. It's actually not a deck, it's there we go, the top deck. And we want to find monitor the headphones. Actually, I might even be wrong on that. Let's see. No, actually, that's right. Let's find monitor and select that. And let's really make sure. I don't think it is. It's drag common. Nope. Mixer. Let's see. It's on mixer. You see that? There's so many. So just make sure you're on it and you find it. We want to set it up to monitor. So I'm going to go to mixer, monitor Q1. Okay. I'm going to hit learn, and I'm actually going to use these buttons up here. Okay, so I'm going to use the first one here, and you see it took it. I'm going to turn it off. It knows it's a button, and it's saying hold. No, I want it to toggle so I can turn it on and off, remember? And I'm going to assign that to deck A. Okay, and let's see if it works. Let's look at the headphones here. And you can see I hit it one time because it's toggling, and if I hit it again, it's off. But I would also like to see on my controller a light up so I know that that is on, okay? So remember, we set up an out as well. It's gonna remember the last thing we did. So we select the top one, again, learn, hit the same button. Now turn it off. Out, all it is a light. It turns the light on for you. That's all it is. Don't confuse it with anything else. So now if I hit it, it's on. On my controller, the light is lit, so I'm good. Okay, so I've done those two, and I'm gonna do the same thing for deck B. Again, shortcut, duplicate it. Okay, I'm gonna hit learn. And for deck B, I use the button next to it. I'll hit that. Make sure, and now make sure that I'm going to assign that button to B. All good. And I'll do the same thing for the LED for the light up. I'm gonna duplicate that. Okay, learn, hit the same button. Make sure it's assigned to deck B. Let's see how they light up. It's on, so we can see that it's lit. So both of them, we're actually listening to both of the tracks on our headphones before we decide to send them, right? So I'm gonna turn them off for now. We're good. And so let's backtrack. We have our play button set up. We have our track volume set up, and we have our monitoring headphones set up as well. Now let's set up some hot cues, right? So when we hit hot cue number 1, it'll play the one that we've set up already, right? We prepared the tracks. We know that maybe we like this part of the track. This track will play here. Maybe number 2 will play somewhere else. So we're kind of ready, okay? So let's set up some hot cues, okay? We're gonna add in, and we'll go here. Actually, you know what we can do before we set hot cues? No, let's go for it. Let's just set up some hot cues, okay? So now let me find out what would be, that's a deck, right? So let's go to the deck. Okay, and let's find a cue. Okay, and here you guys can see that it says to set, select, and store the hot cues. Well, I've already set them up. I just need it for it to select and play, right? So I'm gonna do that. Okay, again, learn. I'm gonna hit the first button here. As you guys can see, it took it. I'm gonna turn it off, and then I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say, hey dude, this is the button. And I need you to hold, it's gonna default to hold, and then I'm gonna assign it to the track I want, which is A. Now the next thing I need to do is, it's set up, but it doesn't know which hot cue it's gonna play. So here at the bottom, I'm gonna say, play hot cue number 1. So let's try that. And I have to hold it, right? Why? Because if it's playing, so we've done hot cue number 1. Okay, and we also need for the light to be on, right? We don't need it for that one, you know, but if you want to, you can add it. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Let's do the same thing for deck B. Okay, and again, we're gonna duplicate that command. We're gonna hit learn, and for deck B, it'll be number 5. Okay, I'm gonna make sure it's deck B, and we can see it's that. Let's test it. Fantastic. Now the next thing we're gonna do is let's do another hot cue, right? Let's do hot cue number 2. Again, add in is the track command, cue, select, and store, learn. Let's hit number 2. Oops, number 2. Okay, it's a knob, a button, not a knob. And here at the bottom, let's select it to number 2 and make sure we have the right deck assigned, which is A. Turn it off so you don't mess it up. So now you guys can see that I'm playing, and I'll move this over so you guys can see it. This is number 2. I'm gonna switch to number 1. So I've assigned 2. Let's do the same thing for deck B. Okay, we have it highlighted already. Okay, I'm gonna hit duplicate. I'm gonna hit learn, and I'm gonna assign it to button number 6. Make sure that it's on deck B and hot cue 2. So let's test it. We can see that it's playing hot cue number 2 and number 1 as well. And by the way, if you want these lights to light up again, you know that setting up an out command will make that happen. So we're looking pretty good. We have a play and stop button. We have Q1, Q2, and we have as well the volumes for both of the tracks. Okay, and we also set up our headphones. Okay, now the next thing we can do, some of us like to use the sync feature when we DJ, which is fine. As you know, I use it as well. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. Shit, we should have options. So let's set up these buttons to be sync buttons. In other words, when this track is playing and we want this one to sync up, we want to turn on sync. Let's do it. So to do that, we are going to go into the add-in as well. Okay, and I don't remember which one, if it's a sync up. Yeah, it's a deck common. So go on there and then go to sync on. Okay, and now we're going to hit learn, and I'm going to hit the first button down here that I want to assign to it. You guys can see that it changed. It's a button, and I want it to toggle, right? I'm going to turn it off once I learn it. I want it to toggle, and I'm going to assign it to deck A. Okay, now you can see that when I hit it, it turns it on and off. But I also need the button on my controller to light up. So for that one, I'm also going to add an add out. Okay, and I'm going to go to the top because it remembers the last thing you did. So it's always going to be on top. It's pretty convenient. I'm going to hit learn, and I'm going to hit the same button, right? So it lights up. So now I have a light on my controller that lights up. When it is on, it lights up. And when it's not on, it's dim. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that it's assigned to deck A, by the way. So cool, my deck A is looking fantastic. Now let's do the same thing to B. Shortcut. Okay, duplicate it. Learn it. And for that one, I'm going to use the one on the right. That looks good. And I'm going to set it to B. And I already know that it's toggling, so I'm good. And I'm going to do the out button as well, so it lights up. Okay, I'm going to take that one and duplicate it. Shortcut. Learn. Cool. And that one will be assigned to B. So now, as you guys can see up here, when I hit it, turns it off, and it turns it on. So we're looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay. Now, other things that we can do, right? We know we need that cue button. We need to cue stuff up. If we don't have hot cues, maybe we want to go to a location in a song and kind of set it up for a cue. So let's do that. Let's work with deck A. In other words, watch this. I'm going to move my Traktor F1 because it's already set up that way so you guys can see what I mean. So it's queuing up. It's letting me kind of go through the track and finding a place that maybe I want to add for it to play. So that is known as your cue. Okay, so let's set one up for that. Okay, so I'm going to go add in. Okay, and I'm going to go to track common. Excuse me. And we're going to find the cue point. Let's find out where that is. And I think that might be, yeah, here we go. So it's a cue up here. Okay, it's a deck common cue. I'm going to hit learn. And I'm going to select number 3 for that. Okay. I'm going to make sure that it knows it's a button. Okay. And I'm going to assign it to deck A. Okay. And I'm going to keep it on hold. I don't want to toggle back and forth because when it's playing, I just want to hit it, and stuff. So that looks good. And we might also want to do that for deck B as well. But before we do that, we need one additional step. So we set this as the cue point. Watch this. So if I were to move this, and if I stop, it's always going to go back to there. That's my cue point. So if I'm kind of setting up the way I'm going to drop my new mix in and things like that, it's kind of helpful to be able to set a cue point. But I also want to kind of skim through the track and find out what's my cue point, right? So let's add that as well. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to deck comment, seek position. I'm going to hit learn, and I'm going to assign the knob right on top of it so my life will be easier. I'm going to turn that, and it's saying fade a knob, and again, direct. As soon as I hit it, it's just going to jump, and I don't want that. I'm going to just put relative, okay? And I'm going to assign it to deck A. So now when I move it, you guys can see that it's moving it. You see that? And that's what I want, okay? And then here you can adjust how fast it moves, which is convenient. I think like 5. I've noticed that 5, it's pretty good. Over 100, but it's up to you. You guys can kind of set this the way that you work. We all have different ways of working. See that? I just want it a little bit slower so I can move, okay? So I'm pretty happy with that. You see, it allows me to move. And now since we set this as a cue point, I can hit cue. Let's say I didn't want it there. Maybe I wanted it somewhere else. I can do that. And that'll be my cue. Okay. So now that we're pretty happy with that, why don't we copy that over so it'll happen as well on the B, on B. So the first thing we did was the cue, remember? So let's find the cue. And by the way, if you can't find stuff up here, you can always change by control or any which way you want. So I'm going to hit cue. I'm going to duplicate that command. I'm going to hit learn. And I'm going to set that to number 7 here. And I'm going to make sure that it's deck B. Everything looks good. And then seek, which gave me a seeking problem. We're going to go to duplicate. Let's duplicate that command as well. Hit learn, and we wanted the knob right above it. Okay, relative, and that will be deck B. So now, as you guys can see, I can also do that to B, and we can set that to be the cue point there. Maybe if I didn't like it there, I can say, no, let's do this one instead. Okay. So there we have it. We have 2 hot points or hot cues. We have the cue, looking through the track to find a cue, your play and your stop, and the volumes for both of them, the headphones and the sync. We've done a lot. We'll do one more and then we'll review and we should be good, okay? So now here we are. Let's play some stuff. I'm going to go to hot cue number 1 just to test it out with you guys. I'm going to hide this for a minute just so I can show you guys what's happening. Okay, it's going to take a little while. Okay, here we go. It's playing on its own, so we're good. I'm just going to bring the volume down. Okay, I'm going to go to hot cue number 2. I'm going to turn the volume down on number 2 so I can cue up. Now I'm going to hit play on that one. So now we're able to DJ between the two. So now we wanted to add some more. This is the extra, the pluses for you guys, okay? So that's all you need really much to DJ. We can add some looping features and things like that. But you guys know that if we go into the preferences and we look at this menu that has a lot of stuff in it, as you guys can see, I was stumbling a little bit in certain parts, but that's because there's so much you can do, you know? So if you wanted to loop stuff, then go right in and find out. Is a track? Do I want to loop things? How do I want to loop? What do I want to do? There's so many things you can do. But what I want to do right now is I want to use the filter right here on this track to filter a track and then kind of bring another one in, right? I think that's kind of cool. Okay. So I'm going to add in, and that is a mixer feature. And I'm going to go to the mixer effect adjust. Okay. I'm going to hit learn. And for that one, I'm going to hit the one on top. Okay. And I'm going to assign it to deck A. It's asking me what it is. And again, relative. I don't want it to jump as soon as I touch it. Okay. And let's take a look at what happens to the filter right here. You guys can see that if I play it, it will filter that one out. Okay. So with that said, I also want to say that we also want to be able to, as soon as we touch it, kind of turn it on if you don't turn it on. Okay. So you can also assign a turn on button for that. Okay. By going to a deck common and going to, mixer, and going to mixer effect on, learn, turn the same knob. Okay. Assign it to deck A, and this is not a button, it's a fader, right? Yep, you can leave it on button actually as a default. So watch what happens now. See, as soon as I turn it, it turns it on. So you could have 2 for 1, a filter, and it turns it on. Okay, so I'm pretty cool with that. Let's duplicate it for B. Okay, again, duplicate it, learn, and I'll do the one above here, 6. Make sure it is on B. Let's duplicate the adjust as well. Learn it. And deck B. Cool. So now we can see that we also have it set up for deck B. I'm pretty happy with that. And the last thing that we're going to do is setting up a reverb. I decided to use the single version, not the multi version where you can have 3 different effects in one. Okay, so here on this section for this example, I'm using single instead of group. Okay, and I've assigned a reverb to both of them. Okay, so now I'm going to go down here, and since it's the mixer that we're working in, okay, I'm going to go to effect unit, unit on. Okay, I'm going to hit learn, and I'm going to use a second knob right here. Okay, I'm going to make sure that that one is assigned to effect unit number 1. Okay, and once I'm done with that, I'm going to go to add in again, mixer effect unit. I'm going to go to dry and wet. Right, I'm going to hit learn, turn the same knob. We know that it's a fader, and I'm going to assign that to effect 1. Turn this off so I won't mess it up. Relative, I don't like direct, it jumps too fast. And you guys can see I'm going to play this deck right here. And because we have it set up with the on, you see when I turn it all the way to the left, it kind of turns it off, so it's kind of convenient. So I'm pretty happy with those 2, right? So let's duplicate it for deck B. Same deal. Okay, dry and wet, duplicate, learn, and we'll use number 6 here. Turn it. Make sure that one is set up to effect number 2. Okay, and we also want to do the on and off of it as well. And let's find it. And if you can't find it, by the way, if you go like this, it'll kind of put them together. Okay, and here it is. Mixer effect on and off. Actually, it's not. It's the effect on. And let me just add it manually. Oh, here. For that one, I don't remember where it is. And for the sake of time, unit on. We'll do it here. It was called unit on. Learn, and let's turn that knob. Okay, sometimes we just have to use all the tools we have. Okay, cool. So as you guys can see, turns on and off, and I have it set up to that. And let's try that deck as well. Volume is up. Cool, so now we've set up our template, right? So let's review what we've set up here. Okay, and I'm gonna close the preferences window and just go over what we just went over. Cool, so the first thing we did was looked at our controller and connected it via USB to make sure that the MIDI information will be sent over USB. And then we kind of looked at the way that it was laid out and said, okay, I have 16 knobs and 8 faders and a few smaller, and 8 buttons and a few smaller ones here on the side. How can I set this up? So for me, I kind of map these to the things that I would normally use to DJ, which would be stop and play, cue points, and the cue button, and also my hot cues. I like my filters and I like my reverb, so I set those up. And my filtering of my volumes of the track, I set up my sync in case I wanted to use sync. And I also set up my headphones so I can hear the tracks before I drop them. So that's the way I prefer to work. You have your own ways, but if you go into preferences, you can set it up any which way you want. Cool, so let's take a look at it. I'm gonna hit hot cue number 1 on deck 1. Okay, and I'm gonna turn up my volume, not too loud, so we can have conversation, right? And now I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna lower the volume just a little bit so you guys can see what's going on. While that is playing, I'm hitting the headphone and I'm listening to deck B, right? On my headphones, and I'm queuing up. Maybe I don't like that spot. I can look for a different spot. Maybe I want it there, and I'm gonna cue it there. Okay. Or maybe I'll just go to cue number 2. As that is playing, I can hear it on my headphones, so I know I'm in time. Okay. So now I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna filter the first track. Right now I'm not really DJing, I'm just giving examples. Bringing up the reverb on deck B. Okay, so there's many different ways. So obviously, it's hard to DJ and teach at the same time, but you guys get the idea of the things that you can do, and that's the whole concept. Being able to map any controller that you want to Traktor Pro, and that is how it's done. It is done by laying out, looking at your controller the way that you want to set it up, then making sure that it's connected to your computer. The next thing that we did was went into preferences, and I'll go back to that. We created a generic MIDI device, okay? So it knows that we're going to be using any controller for that. And then after we did that, we saw that it was empty. Okay, and I'll show you an empty one. You guys can see that. And that's not empty, so you guys are not seeing what I'm trying to show. So let's do that. That's an empty one when you create it. And then make sure you assign your in and output ports to whatever controller you're using. And then you can go down here and get crazy. Add what you want, play, pause, reverse, and so forth. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the tutorial. My name is Josie Carr, and by the way, those are my songs that I'm playing. So I hope you guys definitely check them out on my website, Planet1wp. And by the way, if you guys want me to create some templates on some of the stuff that I just went over, I'll be more than happy to do that. Just write in the comments, share my information. It'd be super wonderful if you guys did that. And for now, ciao. I hope you guys have a great day. My name is Josie Carr. Thank you for tuning in to Planet1wp. Ciao.